So we're back to good inflows on the Bitcoin ETF.
Things are moving in a positive direction again.
Mm-hmm.
They're more than $100 million a day in inflows. That's significant.
What about outflows? Are we not seeing those like we were before?
So there's a little bit of bleed in Grayscale stuff, but Grayscale has flattened out. They're now smaller than IBIT.
Mhm.
So BlackRock's taking the lead in total assets, and the bleed has dropped off. I think they're going to have to restructure their fees now because they don't want to. They're reaching a point where they're going to go to zero on this fund if they continue to charge more than 1% more than everybody else.
Right.
That's just not going to work.
Yeah. Why not just drop the fees? I mean, they have to.
Well, it's easy to change the fund. If you want out of their fund, you just sell the ETF shares
Right.
and you're out, and then you go buy another one 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And you've just changed the basis from them charging you 0.5%, 1.5% to 0.5%,
Mhm.
or 1.5% to zero for some of these for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of easy to see that if I was investing a large amount of money, that would turn into something pretty fast.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it wouldn't make sense to leave that money on the table.
Oh yeah. Why not? I mean, just there's no reason to be paying fees. They're not giving you anything for that fee.
Yeah, they don't give anything extra for it. They're just taking more from you. That's
Right. Right.
Yeah. But the numbers look like they're going back to buying again. We had the little lull. There've been some changes in the market sentiment, but honestly, I think the market's getting more exuberance. The people who are entrenched in Web3 are getting more belief and more conviction in their process that things are going higher.
Right.
And so I see more and more people they're not even looking that close. They're saying, no, things are going to go higher. The sentiment, the market move, the herd, everybody is going in that direction.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but more regulatory clarity looks like that is upcoming also, and that's very
Very
for the
bullish.
crypto market.
Very
Yes.
bullish. I think, we said in our last video that it wasn't really clear where people were moving, and there was a lot of differing opinions about which direction the market was headed.
Mhm.
This is kind of ending, and so we're looking at Raul Paul's banana zone, and we just had a little taste of that with the ETH too.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. The ETH ETF was finally approved.
Yeah, ETH ETFs in general were approved,
Right.
And this is a really big shift for the government because Gary Gensler was against this, and she's been against ETH for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Been against cryptos in general, and got their hand forced on the Bitcoin ETFs.
Right.
And all of a sudden, overnight, the SEC changed their position about ETH and the ETFs. When if you looked at this 2 weeks ago and you went on Polymarket, you try to figure the odds on ETH ETFs being approved by the end of May were below half, well below half. And now you get last week when what happened was the ETF filers, they have to file something called a 19B4. And a 19B4 is a way that they're going to say what they're going to do and how they're going to meet their requirements, but also what actions they want to take. And the SEC had basically ignored these for the most part. They weren't giving any guidance. They weren't giving any feedback. And then they said, hey, you guys can't stake. You can't, here's the rules. And then they gave like 4 rules or 5 rules for it. You can't send it off platform. You can't stake in another thing. You can't like DeFi. You can't degen on DeFi with other people's money is basically what they were saying.
Right.
Okay? And so the 19B4s were all wrong. You have to refile. So they told him you have to hurry up and refile. And this is exactly what happened with Bitcoin right before they got approved. Was the 19B4s weren't right, and to the SEC's liking, I should say. And so then they went, well, if you change this, okay, well, and if you change this, well, and if you change this. So people had the impression that it was going to be a number of changes in a row, and then there would be this. Well, they basically made one change, and then they turned around and approved.
He got a phone call.
Yes.
He got a phone call.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a phone call or a visit or
Right.
or it was the deep voice from the dark in the bathroom. I don't know.
Right.
Okay, but there's been a significant change in the powers that control the minions, like Gary, changed change their tune.
So one of the things they changed is allowing them to stake their ETH, right?
Correct.
The ETFs can't stake their ETH.
Correct.
ETH, right? Do you think? I wonder if that was just he got the call that said you're going to approve this, and he had to get something out of it. He had to do something to make it look like you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's, we're never going to know what goes on behind
No.
the scenes unless somebody writes a tell-all book, and then it's going to be their opinion, and you're not going to know for sure, right? Even if they were there in the room,
Yeah.
you don't know if they got a spin for it or whatnot. So we're not going to know for sure.
I wonder, what do you think? Do you think that's a legitimate pull from that to take the staking out of it? Or do you think that could be added back in later? How do you feel about that?
Think about how, certainly they could change their 19B4s later.
Mhm.
That's legal, right? That's how they operate. They're trying to say how they're going to operate.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, here, I'm an investor and I don't know a lot about this stuff, but I want exposure.
Right.
And I want to go and I want to hold this ETH, but I want to make sure that that I hold it.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna have a custodian that I trust because I trust him with my stocks, whatever. That's fine. But now, are they gonna go gamble with the money?
Right.
That's where I think this fell short, is because if you stake, a lot of times that means you've got to do something like put it in a liquidity pool or lock it into a miner or something like this. Okay.
Mhm.
But if you're in miners and you have problems, you can be slashed. That's a loss to the people who are entrusting you with their ETH.
Right.
If you're in a DeFi pool, your pool could get corrupted and you could get your money stolen.
Mhm.
Right? It's possible. It's not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible. And so I think it's fair for them to say, if you're going to act as a custodian, then you get to act as the custodian, but you don't get to use the money like the banks use the money. That's saved for us, right? Because the banks are the ones that have to have a certain 10% in liquidity to be able to handle day-to-day operations, but they turn around and they loan that money out for mortgages, invest in the stock market, bonds, whatever, to make more money off of your money, by the way, right? I think that's something they didn't want. They don't want it to be like the banking system. It's stocks. I'm a custodian.
Right.
Hold
the asset.
Protect my asset.
But if Coinbase is the custodian holding it for the ETFs, I wonder if Coinbase could be staking it behind the scenes.
Well,
making that isn't about 6% of what people are making on staking.
Yeah. So I don't know if it would be legal for them to do that.
Legal? Who cares? You don't think they could? Billions of dollars at 6%. Someone wants it.
I think somebody wants it, and I think there's a way to do it where it doesn't leave. But if you're exposed and you lose, then you lose really big.
You get caught.
You lose. What if you lose?
What's 6% of billions of dollars compared to the small fine that you might get levied on?
What if you lose it because you're investing in funds and the funds get stolen?
Okay, different question. Okay. Good point.
This is the point. Okay, and think about it from the SEC side. If I'm an investor and I want to hold ETH, but I don't want to have a wallet, that's fine. But that means you're my custodian, not my gambler.
Right. You're supposed to hold it for me.
If I want to stake the ETH, I'll take it. I'll learn about a wallet. I'll stick it in a wallet. I'll stake it. I'll make the money. Why do you need to make the money when you're just supposed to hold it for me? I think that's the perspective, right? You can hold the money, but you can't do it. Like, I don't believe that as the custodian of my Tesla shares that you can go and take them to the casino.
Right, and gamble on it and make some.
And say, hey, you know what? I want to use these as collateral. Give me some chips. I'm going to go to the craps table and win some money here. I don't think you can do that.
Right.
And essentially, that's what it looks like to the SEC because they're not deep in the understanding of how the protocols work. But it's also a risk, and that part they do understand.
Well, there's a risk to staking.
There absolutely
you can lose your stake. That you can. There's reason. It doesn't have to be fraud either. There can be a mistake made.
Okay, so if you want to be a validator on ETH, you cost 32 ETH stake minimum. So you stake 32 ETH, which is like $100,000 at this point, more than $100,000. And you have a hardware problem. Even if
Mhm.
you're located on some server farm, they have an earthquake in their zone and they go down.
Right.
And you're down and they pull you and you're down, they slash you, you lose 1/3
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So, whoa.
Yeah. Could you imagine billions of dollars in an ETF getting slashed by a third because they were staking it?
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like,
That's huge.
they can't do that.
Right.
Even if it was, we only staked 10%. Now they've lost 3% of the fund.
That again, that's unacceptable.
Unacceptable. And I think this is why the SEC pushed back.
Yeah.
Like I said, they see the risk.
Yeah. There is a risk there.
There is
It's a legitimate risk.
It's a legitimate risk. There are ways to do in-wallet staking with some coins,
Mhm.
but I think that's unproven at this point that you're really, what's going on there and how is it working.
Right.
Right.
There can be some Ponzi-nomics going on behind.
Well, and there has to be some way for that to be useful somewhere else. So, like when you lock up funds for a long time, like they do this, things like Hex did this. You can lock it up for a certain amount of time and we'll guarantee you a certain amount
Yeah,
of points.
15 years, I think they were locking
Yeah,
it.
that was the maximum.
Yeah.
It could be anything from 30 days to 15 years,
Okay.
something like this, right? And it was the 30 days, well, you just get a little bit.
Right.
3 months, well, we're going to give you a little more than
Mhm.
you'd have got doing it three times 30 days in a row.
Yeah.
Right? You do it for a whole year, well, we're going to give you more than we would have gave you for the quarterly.
Yeah.
Right? Do it for 15 years, we'll give you this great, because I got your money for 15 years.
Right.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So, there are different ways to play the degen game,
Mhm.
and all of them represent a potential risk.
Yeah.
One way or another, you could lose. It could be as simple as your opportunity loss. If you think if you put $10,000 in Hex for 15 years, even if you got $20,000 out at the end, could you have made $20,000 on ETH? Or could you have made $20,000 on Bitcoin?
Right.
Could you make $20,000 on Nvidia?
Mhm.
I mean, it's an opportunity cost that you're guaranteeing you're out. I am guaranteed out of the pool because you got my shit and it's locked up.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a smart way to play,
Mhm.
but it is one of the mechanisms that's out there if you're in a degen.
So who got approved for this ETH ETF? It was kind of the same players.
Almost all the same players that
Right.
got Bitcoin ETFs made ETH ETFs. I'm not sure if I remember who the ones that weren't.
I think the Bitcoin ETFs that were not is Wisdom Tree and Valkyrie. That's what I'm seeing here. The rest of them, Grayscale, Bitwise, BlackRock, VanEck, ARC21, Invesco, Fidelity, and Franklin, all have Bitcoin ETFs. Is this Franklin?
Yeah, you know what? That's
Yeah, Franklin does. I'm looking at it right here. EZBC is Franklin. So yeah, all of the Ethereum ETFs separately have Bitcoin ETFs.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same players.
Basically,
That makes a lot of money.
well, they just got finished raking it in from crypto like they've never raked it in,
Right.
making an ETF. So
Yeah.
wouldn't you be up for another one?
Oh yeah. Now we can't follow the inflows because this is approved, but it hasn't been. They haven't started trading yet.
There are no inflows yet because their S21 hasn't been approved.
So we will be watching those inflows. That's going to be interesting. We will be following those inflows.
Yeah.
On this channel.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, follow it whether the channel implodes or not. I'll still be following.
Right. But no, I know what's going to happen. We're going to see massive inflows right into this, just like we're seeing it into Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's not clear yet how much pressure there is in the ETH world. It's a different kind of player, and so remember, if you look at Bitcoin is like the digital gold is what people were calling it.
Right.
It was a way to think of it. And Ethereum was like the world computer, right? Because it has the EVM, the ability to process things, and produce results in another way that Bitcoin cannot. So you're going to see different players and different pressures in that.
Different price action, right? Also,
yeah. But what's not clear is whether or not there's more demand from the broader traditional normies, from people who have heard of Bitcoin, is more than the people who have heard of ETH.
For sure.
And the people who believe that Bitcoin has value don't all believe that other
Right.
cryptos have value.
Right.
You know, not everyone is the same, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, some people feel like this is the only one,
Mm-hmm.
and there won't be any others that can. I mean, yes, there are others, but they won't be like this one.
Right.
And they're sold. They're like married the bag.
Right. Yeah.
So-
one ring to rule them all. They are just sold on their coin, whether it's Bitcoin. Well, it's
Yeah,
usually
but
it's usually Bitcoin.
right? Because it's been around the longest.
Yeah.
They call it the first. It's the innovator, this and that and the other. But you know, the innovator car was like a Mercedes Benz in the 1880s, and it didn't even have brakes. You know, the wife of the founder had to create brakes. So
Are you serious?
yeah, go chase that story.
Oh God. Some engineer. Oh, we don't need brakes on this.
Well,
What do we need brakes for?
To go.
Where do you want to go? We don't want to slow down. Well, there's no stoplights. Why do you want to slow down? You want to get around those horses.
yeah, just run them over.
So we got the same players. This is going to be interesting. I think this is going to be fascinating for the market.
What was really surprising, and I think one of the things that people don't take into account is that Ethereum is a lot bigger than Solana. And everybody's talking about Solana like crazy right now.
Right.
Oh, so it's the Solana season and meme coin season
Right.
and Solana's going to do better than
Or it's the next
Yeah.
ETF. We've heard that.
Yes, we heard that right after we
Right.
heard that this one was approved.
Right.
But 2 weeks ago, Solana was something like 70 million or less market cap.
70
Billion.
billion. Yeah, 70 billion total market cap.
Total market cap. So complete
Yeah.
market valuation. ETH went up by 70 billion.
Just
in
this
that
increase.
12-hour period.
Right. That's
Right after
mammoth compared.
The differences are really hard to. Right now, I think Solana's just under 80 billion in value,
Mm-hmm.
and ETH is a little under half a trillion.
Right.
So the numbers, you're
Totally different.
the order. It's almost an order of magnitude difference.
Right.
Right.
It
It's
Yeah.
half an order of magnitude. Right.
Yeah.
So that says that when people talk about it, all the transaction and all the activity on Solana and growth potential, yes, but there are bigger players. You know, Ethereum is a bigger
Mhm.
player. Bitcoin is a bigger player.
Yep.
And they're going higher.
Right.
So yeah, can you get things that make progress on Solana? Absolutely. Will it be here in 5 years or 10 years? I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, I
Right.
don't know.
Well, I mean, Ethereum has so much. I mean, the good Ethereum compared to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just our gold. You can't do as much with it. Like Ethereum, you can do a lot more with it.
Yes.
You can build on. I mean, there's a lot more functionality.
Well,
there.
and a lot of things ride on top of it.
That's right.
It's an ecosystem. It's not just a coin.
Right.
It's not just a cryptocurrency or a blockchain.
Mhm.
Right? You don't see a lot of things trying to go develop and ride on top of Bitcoin.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the EVM.
Right.
So you can't run a contract against it, which means you can't live on the blockchain.
Would the BSV people argue that you could run smart contracts on there?
I don't know if does the BSV allows smart contracts. I think they do.
They do.
I think they do.
But you can't on Bitcoin, like on just straight regular BTC. You can't run smart contracts yet,
There's
can you?
no engine for it.
Okay.
So it has to. It would have to be developed.
I mean,
or a side chain would run it.
okay,
Okay.
but not yet. I mean, right now, what can you do on Bitcoin? You can do obviously on Bitcoin. You can do ordinals,
You do ordinals.
NFTs, ordinals, same.
Ordinal. Okay. So NFT is ordinals could be called NFTs,
Okay.
but people in the Bitcoin world prefer their own designation. So they call them ordinals instead of NFTs. And it comes from how you find them on us, in a Bitcoin.
Okay.
The ordinal is the Satoshi in the Bitcoin.
So it's effectively the same thing. I know we could get roasted in the comments when you say
No,
that.
I want to say that because you don't have contracts
Mhm.
and you don't have programmability in the NFT, in the ordinals that you do in the NFTs,
Right.
that they're not quite the same. And like, I'm not aware of anybody using an ordinal as a gated access tool.
Okay.
I'm not aware of anybody using an ordinal as a dynamic image.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not aware of anybody using it for anything other than static data. And that static data is limited in volume. Only a certain amount fits in the note field in a Satoshi. So the ordinal represents a specific Satoshi in a Bitcoin.
Right.
And the individual Satoshi can contain a note field of up to, I think, 2048 characters.
It's not very big.
It's not big. So the things that go on there are either small pieces of art or documents. People are putting documents on there.
Mm-hmm.
But you go to ETH and you look at something that's riding on top of ETH, like Cultivate helmets. Now you have a 3D rendered object that you can use in the metaverse as part of your costume for your avatar.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that with an ordinal. That doesn't work.
Right. Okay.
Okay. They're different.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to take you down the rabbit hole for
It's not for this
why.
video. Right. That's not for this
But
video.
the fact of the matter is they're programmable
Right.
on ETH and they're not programmable on Bitcoin.
Which is just what we were mentioning. There's so much more use case built into ETH versus Bitcoin. Like we were talking, there's so much more writing on the ecosystems are being built around it. How can the ETH ETF not just grow?
Oh, they'll grow. They'll
grow massively.
Yeah, they'll grow massively. They'll go to billions in valuation for sure.
Mm-hmm. But does that put price pressure right now on ETH? I mean, are they holding back a lot of ETH that they could slowly bleed out to keep the price low?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much liquidity there is in ETH, but I know there's a lot of velocity in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's moving around a lot, and people are using it as a tool.
Yeah.
I suspect that there'll be price appreciation, but I also think that it's going to be similar to the way that the Bitcoin ETFs did, is that it's not going to provide an instantaneous boost.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get these sudden pumps, the green candles you're going to get from things like, it got approved. People jump on it, okay?
Right.
But now it got approved, but nobody could buy it. And so now it's going to fall back down.
Right.
Right. So when we jump to over 3,800, we're below 3,800 today. I guarantee it. I haven't looked, but I guarantee you we're below 3,800 today.
Yeah.
It's just, that's how it works.
Yep.
Poof. And then, wait, reality. And then when it gets to be available, then we'll start going back up.
Right.
Because they'll start to be, well, I can go get some of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now once you can get some of it, now you're taking it off the market.
Yeah.
So once you start taking it off the market to put it into an ETF, now you're going to start seeing upward pressure in the price.
Yeah.
Now, how much pressure that is going to depend a lot on how much is being bought, what the total available in the market is today, how much is locked up in contracts. A lot of the ETH is locked up in contracts.
And also how much retail gets in. Right now, retail isn't going into the Bitcoin ETFs as much.
Yeah, I'm not even sure that they're really offering it much to retail yet.
But
right now, the Bitcoin ETFs, the way that they're approaching this is all the professionals are getting their chance.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that are getting educated. They're the ones that are, well, I should get some of this position.
Yeah.
Well, it's still lower.
Right.
Right. It's not always going to be this way. Eventually, the masses will start coming because it will be showing up for them. Yeah, I don't believe that if you go, and I haven't checked this, but I don't believe that if you go somewhere like, if BlackRock has a Robinhood style app or something like that, I don't think you can just click on the Bitcoin ETF. I think you got to go ask them, and they may or may not be able to offer it to you yet.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know that because I don't hold an account with them, and I'm not trying to buy through them. I'm doing self custody.
Right.
So, but I do believe that in the time will come when picking a crypto will be as easy as picking a stock. You're going to be on the Robinhood. You're going to be on the the TD, whatever it is. Whatever that app is that you use today,
right,
is going to have another section, which is going to include Bitcoin and ETH and Solana and Chainlink. And,
sure,
and
they have others. It now. PayPal has that. I can buy Bitcoin and ETH in my PayPal app right on my phone. I just click to the crypto section.
Yeah, but that is a little different than buying it for a portfolio, because you have all of the government management of the companies that provide that. So the ETF, issuers have more scrutiny and more financial
Oh,
requirements,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So what's going to happen though is you're going to be able to go out and invest in it how you see fit, and then all these other traditional companies and funds and you know pools are going to start taking up some of it. It's going to represent a balancer for them, and so they're going to reduce the available liquidity, and they're going to reduce the available supply. And when you think about it, only about 15 million Americans have held crypto. There's over 350 million, or
Right.
about 350 million.
Right. The masses haven't even really shown up yet.
But it's slowly penetrating them.
I wouldn't be surprised though if the masses, when they showed up, they prefer Ethereum because it looks cheaper. It looks cheaper. I've heard that from people before. Oh, Bitcoin is 60,000, but Ethereum's cheap.
A lot of them.
Well, they might,
because Solana's under $200.
They might. It depends on the hype. It depends on the press, what people are talking about, the social aspect of it.
The other side of that, though, is that retail is probably not all going to go to Wall Street to buy it.
Right.
What we haven't seen is the aha moment for the average Joe, which is would push people in, right? And what we are seeing is the adoption of this financial instrument by professionals, and they continue to invest more than $100 million a day on a daily basis into crypto assets, which is, look, if you could get $100 million a month into your new ETF, you're a big time winner. A big time winner.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you're getting 0.5% on $100 million,
right,
that's $500,000 a day.
Right. Yeah.
$500,000 a day. So at 0.5%.
Right. And you're not really, you're doing a lot of work for it.
You didn't do shit. You filed some paperwork, the SEC. And now you have a custodian problem with Coinbase, and they're taking part of your $500,000 a day.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's not the numbers. People laugh when they look at crypto and they say, "Oh, it's a trillion. There's a trillion shares." The reason there's a trillion shares is because if everybody wanted to have some of this, they're going to want more than one. You're going to want 100. You're going to want 1,000, whatever it is. How many people can have 1,000 if there's a trillion?
A lot.
Right?
Yeah. So this week has been interesting for crypto. It looks like the government's repositioning a little bit. The ETF, like we're talking about, was approved. And then they have this FIT 21 bill that passed the House of Representatives, but it hasn't gone to the Senate yet. But
that's a big deal.
This is showing where the government's headed, isn't it? And they pivoted.
Yeah, so we had this big problems with Gensler and the regulation by legal interaction, right? So the SEC going after different kinds of cryptos while the Congress is running around saying, "What are you doing? Why are you driving this business out of the U.S.?"
Right.
With these big hearings a while back. Okay, so back in July of last year, there started to be some work through Congress members who were pro-crypto, started working together to develop guidelines and boundaries for the SEC and the CFTC on crypto assets. And so the result of that effort has been the FIT 21 bill, which is supposed to provide separation and boundaries between the SEC and the CFTC. And essentially, that's moving control of crypto assets out of the SEC and towards the CFTC, making them to be, Congress is essentially defining them as commodities.
Right.
Okay. And they're also setting rules for how they're to be handled. So that what we're gaining out of this is regulatory clarity, guidelines for boundaries, and the things that we need for crypto to actually be able to thrive in the U.S. and for the U.S. to become a hub of this development, of this financial, digital financial development. We need good rules, and we need environment and a place where the people that do it can make money. And those people have been leaving the country in droves.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
They're just there's an island somewhere that's happier to have them than the U.S. is, and that's sad because we're an economic powerhouse. And if you really want to be big and make a difference, we're a good place to make a difference because there's a lot of money flowing around.
Right.
So I look forward to there being some change, but there is no counterpart in the Senate. Nobody sponsored a counterpart in the
Right.
Senate. So
Yeah.
there are rules that allow the Senate to accept the House's definition of a bill, but normally what happens is they both have their own definition,
Right.
and they have to be reconciled by committee
hmm
and then revoted and repassed by the House and the Senate.
Right.
I don't think they're going to just pass the bill in the Senate. I'll be really surprised if they do, because the Senate tends to be a little bit older and a little bit more
Deliberative. They take their time.
yeah, like they're yeah, exactly. They're measured in their movements more. And so I don't expect them to be like, oh yeah, well you guys passed it, sure,
Right.
that's fine. It
Yeah.
sounds like more like they're going to say, well, we want to look at this more closely.
hmm
We have our own concerns, we have our own points that we want to consider,
Right.
and so I think that translates into them pushing back on that and having changes. And so what I kind of expect is that someone will take the lead on that in the Senate. Some one or more will take the lead on that and craft their own version to be reconciled
Right.
against the House version.
Maybe Elizabeth Warren could take that up for us. Wouldn't that just
I believe the phrases kill me now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know
People
who
who
would
don't
be.
people who don't understand crypto shouldn't be involved in the process of crafting the rules.
No, they shouldn't.
And people who already have a closed mind position about it shouldn't
Right.
be involved in the process at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to happen with or without the U.S. and
hmm
we should be smart and we should play into it. And if we need consumer protections, then let's have them. If we need clear guidelines, for God's sake, let's have them.
Right.
Let's get
Let's
there.
get beyond this. Let's pass the
This is
rules.
so stupid. The rest of the world is moving so fast without us.
Yeah.
Dubai, UAE it loves crypto. Why? Because it brings all these smart people with all this money there to go and do their thing and hang out.
Right. We need to bring them back.
Yes.
Yeah.
And now, so I guess it's time for a beer, isn't it?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, let's get a cold one.
All right.